Great. So today I'm here with Neil Sheth, another contact I found via the fabulous Freedom Hackers group. So thanks so much, Neil, for your time today. I know you have quite a sort of special situation that we're not used to seeing, so it'd be great if you could introduce where you are in your career transition journey and what your plans are, I guess.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me. So, I'm Neil Sheth. I'm in the middle of quitting my job, should I say, and growing my business. So, a bit of background. My background in my professional background, I like to call it the boring part of my life is a project manager within investment banking, which I've been doing for around 10 years. And I'm in the process of growing my online marketing business. And there's two sides of that business. One is where I do it for businesses who don't necessarily have the time to do it for themselves, which is called onlywearonline.com. And then my other business where I help people grow their presence online through coaching, and that's where yourbrandfound.com comes into it. So yeah, that's my background. I guess the special situation that I'm in is I decided to put myself on the hook, and I'm sure Anna, you've heard about people talking about accountability and making sure you follow through and taking action, and I've been doing that for years. But what I really found is when I put myself on the hook, and I'll explain in a second, that's when I've really taken my business seriously and put myself under pressure. And the way I've done that is I've just made it public. I created a website called watchmequit.com, where I essentially just tell people I'm quitting by the end of the year, which I hope to do. I have an income goal, and then I'll share the journey along the way, and hopefully, as we were just discussing, I will quit and leave that boring side of business behind me.
And can I ask, does your boring employer know about this?
So interesting question. About a month ago, he found out that I've got a business, and that was because in investment banking you have to do attestation of if you're a director of another company or involved in any other businesses. So he was like, what's this Only Wear Online Limited about? And then that's when I explained it, and then I mentioned the word SEO, which I'm sure you know much about, and search engine optimization. He was like, oh, right, I know what that is. And then we ended up having an SEO discussion, which was really weird. But he was warm to the idea. He was like, in fact, he's mentoring a veteran who has left has left his previous career and now wants to start wants to get a career in something else, and he mentors him. And funny enough, a few weeks before he found out about what I do, the veteran needed some advice on Google Analytics. So my boss was like, by the way, do you know what Google Analytics is? Could you help someone out? I was like, yeah, more than happy to. I love that stuff.
Okay. That's interesting. So he's actually quite supportive, and I guess there's no conflict of interest between the job. It would be different if you were starting up a similar company that would then be competing with the job that you're in now.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the key is I don't let it impact what I'm doing at work. I take that very seriously, make sure I deliver and, ensure the quality doesn't go down. He knows I work hard on the weekends and to work to basically do that. I'm not sure he understands the nitty gritty of what goes behind the scenes. So far he's supportive. I have to admit, I don't bring it up in conversation. But yeah.
Okay, great. And I guess going back to the beginning, when you decided to sort of, I guess, both build up to quitting your job and start this business, but also make it visible, what was the moment at which you made that decision?
So I've been wanting to do my own business for about 10 years. My first business was when I was at university while I was studying, and when I went into my first time job after graduating, I was excited, and I think after a number of years, obviously that excitement kind of goes down, and then you start realizing, this is what it's about every single day. So I've always wanted to create my own business, and about 10 years ago, I started launching websites and doing marketing for myself and doing, making money online. And I think when I really took it seriously is probably around 3-4 years ago when I was working for Goldman Sachs. And if you've heard of the company, you work very long hours. and you're there, every single day until 7, 8, 9 o'clock, even later, and then you come home and you're just tired, and it's very difficult to start your own business. So I think around then I just decided that, look, I can't keep going to work and trying to do this thing on the side. I need to take that a bit more seriously. So at that stage, I was still doing my own websites, and I was still sitting there thinking, what could I do? What could I do? What could I do as a website that would just work really well? And whilst I was doing all these websites and still making a bit of income online, it was never enough to quit my job, or it was never enough for me to be like passionate about it, to throw myself into it. And coincidentally, at the same time, about 2 years ago, a few businesses started asking me for some advice. And my wife has been pushing me for, a year or two just before that. And she was like, why don't you just help other people? Why don't you just, create your own agency or start coaching people? And through that, I started, when people started asking me for advice, then I started giving it and kind of working with them one-to-one. What I really understood is I'm massively passionate about business. If you talk to me about business, I could have that conversation every single day, right? 24 hours a day. And it was a perfect business for me because A, I was passionate about business, and B, I was passionate about digital marketing, online marketing. So it was kind of staring me in the face, but I never really understood it until about 2 years ago. And that's when I started going into it even deeper, because doing it for yourself, you can kind of get away with it, right? But when you do it for others, you've got to have procedures, you've got to have contracts, you've got to have processes in place, you've got to know what you're doing. When you're doing, you've got to have a content calendar, you've got to have all these things in place, right? As you know. So I'd say 2 years ago is when I started taking it seriously, and then it took me about a year to get really serious about doing it for others. And then in the last year, that's when I've started to pick up a few clients here and there.
And what would you say is the biggest challenge that you've seen so far?
So sales, funny enough, was for me, was a big challenge. I thought I was great at sales, and that's because my first ever job was selling Windows on the phone. So I thought, this is going to be brilliant. I'm going to get stuck into this. And then I've done like telesales, and I've done market research on the phone. So I thought, that's my strong suit. Let me just focus on what I'm not good at, which is more the technical side and making sure I've got procedures and processes in place. But I've just found sales just to be this whole different thing where I started off by saying, I need to make more sales. I need to give people my prices as quickly as possible. So I'd meet someone at networking. They'll be like, what's your price? I'll be like, it's X amount. It depends how big your website is, but it starts on X amount and it goes up to blah, blah, blah. And I'll jump into that. And then, the next bit was like, let's catch up. Let's go through it. And they just weren't interested. And what I noticed was I wasn't taking the time to build a relationship, and I wasn't taking the time to build a business understanding of their business. And when you do that, which took me a painful year, but when you do that, what I found is the price conversation just gets put to the side. It's more like, when can we make this happen? And then let me just check, what's your price? And I just found that to be like the biggest light bulb in terms of this whole process.
That's so interesting, because it is often the first question people ask, and it's easy to sort of go, oh, this is I'm sorry, I could maybe go cheaper. And actually, as you said, understanding their needs and talking more about, okay, and actually sort of reframing their need, because often they think they want one thing. You were just mentioning before the call, in fact, maybe in the call you were saying about Google Analytics and SEO, like, oh, is that Google Analytics? If they're not very familiar with something, especially high tech stuff, then they might have sort of decided, oh, we need QR codes, or we need like a mobile app, and you can then reframe that. Actually, maybe what you need is a content strategy first, and then, as you said, the pricing becomes sort of a secondary discussion. So it's...
Yeah, completely. I mean, I met someone last week who's one of my clients, and he thinks he needs SEO. And whilst I'm doing SEO, we put it under this banner of SEO. But actually what I'm doing is I'm doing the research, and then I'm putting that in front of him and then saying, based on this research, we need to change your website. And sometimes clients don't necessarily know they need that. It's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know. But when you listen to their problems and you break it down for them and say, actually, here's where we would start, and this would make sense for your business. Seeing that kind of light bulb in them as well has been, I guess, nice to see, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, and it sounds like you've sort of overcome that challenge then, but where have you had the support during this time to help you go through this gradual process, I guess, of building the business and eventually quitting?
I think just like I've got a good network now over the years of people who have created an online business, or they're in business themselves. So I think that generally is my go-to. I've even got some friends who quit their job and have started their own digital agencies and have got more than 5 clients. So it really helps to speak to people that are in it, in the zone, doing what you want to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same business, but that whole mindset thing. There's a certain way of thinking when you're starting your own business, and going to work, for example, in investment banking. If I was to ask any of them what I should do in my situation, I'll probably get a blank face. But just friends and family that are in it has been massively helpful. And then, as you know, there's a few groups out there, Facebook groups, where you can ask questions and just get some kind of outside opinion from people that aren't necessarily in it every day has been really helpful. And I just read a lot, so I get a lot of time going to work. So I get my travel into work's about an hour and a half, door to door, and the same back. So I get a lot of time to read. I don't necessarily read books. I'm not a massive book reader unless someone shoves it down my throat and goes, look, you have to read this, which there is a couple of books like that. But I tend to just find really good articles or things or emails that I'm signed up for. And I'll click the link and I'll pocket it. It's an app where you can read it later. And then on the train, I'll be going through all this stuff, and I just love it. That's another thing. And then the thirdly is podcasts. So I'm a massive podcaster. I will go to the gym, and it's my way of motivating myself to go to the gym, because sometimes I just find it really difficult to get to the gym. But once you're there, it's easy. But my motivation behind getting to the gym is sometimes I really want to listen to a podcast, so I'll run the treadmill, or do a workout, and I'll listen to this podcast, and I'll be like, oh wow, and then I'll be motivated to come home and look at that or whatever.
Oh, it's a double benefit. That's good. I love that. I mean, lifelong learning. I'm so much for that. Constantly reading as well, and especially in digital marketing, it's such a fast-moving field, I guess, that you need to sort of stay on top of the latest developments as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, to be honest, the way I see it is my clients or the people that I coach, they pay me to do their marketing. If I'm not up to speed with it, then what they're paying me for. So I need to make sure. And there's always different ideas, right, that you see coming up, and you'll be like, actually, I can apply this for this business, and that's what I love about it. It's creative, and yeah.
And I guess you haven't yet fully embraced the sort of entrepreneurial lifestyle, but what's been the best part of it so far? And maybe in particular as well, what's been the best part of sort of going through this process publicly with your website where you're sharing your experiences?
Okay, so I would love to say I get to travel, be on the beach, and run my business, right? And obviously I've not left my job. So maybe our next interview or our next chat next year, I'd love to say that. But I think, the most, and this has only happened in the last, so this is quite timely. I think this has only happened in the last 1 to 2 months. And I would say, to answer your question, is serving people, getting a testimonial, getting a review, getting someone who is really passionate about what you've done for them. See, I work with a lot of businesses who are very passionate about their business, right? I'm passionate about their business as well, but I'm very passionate about online marketing. And when I have a business that turns after our conversation or after I do some work with them and shows me some passion about the online marketing and then gives me a review, it's like the best thing in my experience. So I've had a recent client who where I provided some coaching, and before the first thing he said to me was like, but Google knows what my website is about, Neil, so I don't necessarily need any help with SEO, but I do need some help getting featured out there. And I was like, look, that's probably not, I had to be nice, right? So I was like, look, that's probably not best way of thinking about it. Google might know you do that, but Google doesn't know you do that. So after an hour conversation and some trust, he agreed to work with me, and I did some work for him, and I showed him the data, and I was like, here's what you need to change on your website, because everything you've done up until now has been about you, and the data is about who you're trying to serve, your customers, and this is why you need to change your positioning, right? And you need to stop saying blogging and I need to blog, but you want to create content they're looking for. So I put that in front of them. I was like, this is what they're looking for. This is what you need to create. So we had this conversation, we had this session, and then a couple of weeks later, he was like, Neil, I've got my whole navigation done. Here's a picture of the content I'm going to do. He's now creating like legality guides, buyer's guides. And then he sent me this awesome review, which I put up on my Facebook page as well, because I had to. And it was just like seeing someone go from, not really understanding online marketing, saying the generic content is king, I need to create content, to actually having a focused kind of mindset. And now we're meeting up in January, he said, actually, for dinner with him, me, and his investor to see what he can do in the future. So that was interesting. And to be honest, it kind of goes beyond that. It's more about that relationship and the friendship that comes out of those conversations and doing business with clients that you really get along with. And I think that's been the most I guess rewarding experience. Is doing things like that. Like on Monday, I did a talk on SEO in London, and it was unbelievable in terms of the response I got at the end. They stood up and they clapped, obviously,
wow.
and they were like, when we signed up for this, because I put it up on Eventbrite, they said we didn't realize it was going to be this good. We've never had a talk that's gone into this much depth, and we would be willing to pay for this. And I was like, really? And so my next event next month is going to be paid for. And it's not to make money, because you can't really charge a lot of people for an initial conversation, a talk like this, but it's more to A, get serious people turn up who have signed up, and then B, it'll cover my costs at least. And, it should be a detailed conversation, and hopefully you'll get a lot more serious businesses turn up that way. But it's just moments like that. And my wife said it the other day. She goes, this is the first thing you've ever done in the last 10 years where you're actually helping someone. And I think that's the difference, right? When you're doing a business, is stop thinking about making money, revenue, and actually enjoying it. And by enjoying it, it's not about the money and all of that. It's the helping someone. So yeah, I think I've enjoyed that the most. WatchMeQuit.com has been awesome. I've had a few people actually reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'd really want to know about this, and how do you find out? How do you prepare financially for it?" So I've had some great questions, which I'm going to put together in the future. But just having kind of feel, I guess the best thing about that is going through that journey with people who are in that space. So it doesn't feel like I'm alone. Do you know what I mean? And speaking to obviously yourself, who's gone through it, I think it's all about people. Is what I'd say. Just to summarize. Sorry, long answer.
No, I have so many things to respond, but I agree 100%. I mean, I always say sort of find your tribe is one of the things. And definitely when I first quit, I went to some events, and actually the content of the talk wasn't potentially life-changing. It was more the people I met there, and finding other people who have the same frustrations, same ambitions, same sort of bigger dreams, I guess, of how they want to live their lives. And I think that's really nice. And I guess the other thing I wanted to say is just in terms of sort of job satisfaction, I think there's research that says that satisfaction comes when you're really close to delivering a real result, I guess, when you're close to seeing the impact that you're having, and in particular on people. And I think probably in a lot of the corporate jobs, insurance, banking, even marketing, for me, you're standing there in an office in Geneva, in my case, and doing PowerPoint decks, but you're quite far removed from the final product and seeing the joy on the teenage girl's face when she gets the perfume, as whatever it is. But and I think maybe as an entrepreneur, or definitely you're having your own business, you're so much closer to that. And as you said, you're choosing to work with people as well who are passionate about their work. So I think it sort of flows in all directions, I guess. So very nice to hear that you're experiencing that as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
And I guess my final question then is, what advice would you give to someone? So if somebody's watching you quit and they're inspired but a little bit hesitant, what would you say to them?
I would say there's no better time to start now. And when I say that, I don't mean quit now.
Mm,
What I mean by starting your business now. And if you really want to do it, you have to understand that it requires a lot of commitment, a lot of persistence, and a lot of drive. And there'll be times when things just aren't going right. But it's a bit like a bus, especially in London. You're waiting for it for such a long time, and then two will come. So you find moments like that when you're
mm,
growing business, and there'll be those down days, and then suddenly something will happen, and then suddenly something else will happen, which happened to me actually last week. But that's what I'd say is um, no better time to start but now, and then just to add to that, um, I think a lot of people, and I met a few people this during this talk, which their questions centered around them. Their questions centered around their business and what they want to do, right?
mm,
And um, in particular, one lady, she was asking about her website and how she wants to monetize it and make money. And I kind of just helped her in terms of a mindset. And what I'd say is it's more about who you want to serve,
mm,
problems they have, right? And and then what you'll find is if you just follow that path and you put that first, and that's where the relationships and the people come into it. But if you always put that first and you follow that path, what you'll find is you'll end up creating a business that you care about, a business that you're passionate about, and a business that other people will rave on about as well.
mm,
And that for me has made the biggest difference in the last 6 months to a year is putting that forward, putting that first. Like for my coaching business, it's a very particular person that I would work with to help coach for online marketing, and and that person is very specific in my mind. So I might go to a networking event and someone will say, I want online marketing coaching. And in my head, I have an idea of who would get the most benefit out of it. It's not just me about selling my services. I'm looking for someone that would get the most benefit, someone that
mm,
would take the next step. Or another way is on a business that it would work for, right? It's not about, it's about getting good reviews, good testimonials, and most importantly, delighting people at the end of it.
mm,
And and I can only do that because I really understand who I want to target and what help they need. And that's what I'd say is start off with that. If you specialize in a particular skill, put it in front of people, and rather than just brainstorming and say, would people buy this, or
mm,
would people be interested in this, go speak to people and actually have that
mm,
conversation
mm,
and get some feedback. And what I found is, even though people haven't bought my services a year ago when I was trying to establish this thing, just by practicing this conversation and just by understanding and having this conversation, I've been able to rehearse without knowing I've rehearsed what I've
mm.
said. So that's what my advice would be.
So much wisdom then. That's great. So I mean, listening, understanding, learning, right? And then also, as you said, practicing, and then you'll be ready for it. And creating value, I guess, is another thing that there's a
Yeah.
lot about, not going in for that hard sell right away, as you said, these are my prices, but really seeing how you can serve the customer. That's a really nice way of thinking of it. So thank you.
Yeah.
And just to end, I guess you've given us your links, but if you could repeat again where we can find you, both your businesses and your Watching You Quit website.
Yeah. So where I do online marketing for companies, that's onlywayonline.com. And then where I do provide coaching, so that's SEO coaching, content marketing, sales funnels, all of that kind of stuff, but made simple, is yourbrandfound.com. And then lastly, where I'm sharing the journey of quitting and growing a business is watchmequit.com. So yeah, thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
Oh, a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with the final months. When is your deadline for quitting?
So by the end of this year, that's my
Okay,
target.
so New Year's Eve
Well,
resignation
yeah,
letter going in. Or
yeah. I might need to get my boss out of bed or
okay,
something
so yeah,
to.
call them up. I quit.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Anna.